you started to see the efficiencies save people time. And we also started doing a new bonusing system where when we found opportunities that saved the company money, we would put that right back into the pockets of the technicians.
You're listening to Titans of the Trades. I'm your host, Ryan Englin, author of Hire Better People Faster and creator of the CoreFit Hiring System, a proven process to help growing companies attract and retain only the best. I'm on a mission to revolutionize the perception of the trades and elevate it to new heights. After growing up in a blue-collar family, my passion for making the trades cool again runs deep. If you're a titan in the industry and want to be on my show, stick around until the end and I'll reveal how you can be my next guest. Welcome back. I'm your host, Ryan Englin. This is Titans of the Trades. And on today's episode, I'm going to sit down with Sebastian Williams. He's a partner over at Sasser Restoration. What an incredible story, from consultant to tech startup to now running a company that is dominating in the trades. And it's with a really simple solution. Hire the best people, retain the best people, keep them engaged, build an amazing team, put the processes in place. And on today's show, we're going to dig right in to everything you need to know to turn your contracting company into a dominant force in your marketplace. I want to welcome to today's show, Sebastian Williams, the partner at Sasser Restoration. Sebastian, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So great opportunity here for you and I to meet. As we talked earlier, I was expecting someone else for the show from Sasser, but congratulations to your partner. And I think we're having a great conversation. So we got to connect on a few things. And I'd love for you to just tell us a little bit about how'd you get started in the trades, because this isn't what you grew up in. This wasn't your past life. Like, this was a conscious decision to do this. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. Absolutely. So I grew up in rural Western North Carolina. I was a first generation college student. So when I went off to Chapel Hill, I thought that, whoever had the biggest, shiniest booth at the career fair was success. Whenever I did that, I ended up graduating and moving to New York City, consulting life, worked on the 47th floor in Times Square. The ball drop for New Year's was right outside my window, and I thought I'd made it. And turns out it was really far away from my roots and really far away from what I think I wanted to do in life. And so I've had some great mentors along the way, which I think is one of the most important things that's ever happened to me is great mentors. And I had one specific mentor who kept always coming to me and saying, "Hey, I think you really should look into the trades. I think you should look into the businesses that keep us running every day." And I always kind of gave him the highs. I'm enjoying life wearing a suit and tie and flying around the country. And it just clicked one day that I really felt passionate about the people and the process, and a lot of the things that I wasn't getting out of my corporate job. And I had seen that a lot of those things are in these trade businesses. And I thought I would give it a chance. I've never looked back.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was 7-8 years ago now.
It was.
Yeah. And I know that when you looked at getting into the trades, you looked at Sasser as an opportunity, and you guys have done some pretty amazing things with it from when you invested in the company to where it is today. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Sure. Absolutely. My business partner, Houston, we did start off straight from scratch. So we bought 2 vans. We were the technicians, we were the estimators, we were the customer service reps, we were the accountants, we did everything. So it was out of necessity because we didn't have anybody else on the team. And 2, we really felt that we needed to be able to empathize and understand all the different roles with the company and be able to get in a crawl space and scrub mold ourselves before we could really understand how we'd want to build a company to do water extraction, disaster response, get up in the middle of the night and go and respond to a health clinic that had a pipe bust. We thought it was really important that because we were coming from different backgrounds from a corporate perspective, that we needed to get in the trenches and get mud on our boots while we built the company. And so then with Sasser, we actually had the opportunity to acquire Sasser in 2020. So we had about 30 employees operating out of one office location in North Carolina. And now we have about tripled the business and we have three different offices, one in Texas and also one in Southern California.
That's awesome. I hear you talk about the background that you had in the consulting world and how you've brought that in and you've been able to, I mean, triple the amount of employees that you've had in the last 6 years from when you invested in Sasser. And I'm sure there's been some ups and downs along the ways. How would you say that your background in consulting has really prepared you for some of the challenges that come in with the trades? So many people grow up in the trades, started a business, and they're not prepared for those same types of things. So what have you found?
Yes, so it was a blessing and a curse. So the blessing I would say is that I already thought in frameworks and thought about from an outsider's perspective, how can we put process around what already exists? How can we figure out how to leverage technology and what's out there in the market to be able to help us do what we do better? I think that that was really important. What I did not see is that from an outsider's perspective, I think I wanted to move too fast. I wanted to make too many changes too quickly. I think that there were times that I either wasn't listening whenever I was interviewing employees on how we did things, or maybe I had happy ears where I heard one thing and I would latch on to that and go. And it resulted in, just some miscommunications with the team where I remember specifically we decided that people used to do their receipts. They would put them in a shoebox, literally paper receipts in a shoebox, and they would drop them off at the finance office's desk for processing. And of course, the bells went off. It was like, we can't keep doing it this way. So,
Yeah.
a new app that we can easily take pictures of the receipt and log it very quickly. And to me, it had no reason why we would want to do this. And we got a bunch of backlash of, oh, these guys are coming in and turning us into a computer company. That's literally like a quote that someone had said. And it made me realize that, there's a lot of people on our team who weren't used to using apps on their phone. And there were people who just felt that we were just pushing new things on their plate to do without a lot of explanation. And so I think that we got a lot better about trying to think about why are we making these changes and making sure that we can communicate to our team why these upgrades and new technologies and things are going to benefit them and not just benefit the back office.
Mm. I think it's great observation. And we talked a little bit about you can't sit down with anybody in business right now and not talk about the impact AI is having in their world and what AI's impact is going to be in the trades. And are we really safe or are we not? And I mean, that's all technology conversation. And I find that a lot of people that are in the trades, they don't like technology conversations. They work with their hands, they're builders, right? Like that's what they do. So, how'd you bridge some of those gaps? How did you make it so that they were receptive to some of the changes you wanted to make, even after you got to the point where you're like, okay, I got to take a step back a little bit because it got a little too much.
I think part of it is confidence. So I think that people tend to hide when they aren't confident to be able to do a task or to even communicate. Sometimes people are not even confident enough to stand up and say, I don't understand. And so being able to take the time to build that base confidence around technology. Some of the times we have found it wasn't necessarily that they were against using this new app, it was that they didn't even know how to use the App Store. So we're just assuming that they have a level of competency with technology for some of our technicians and even people who've been in the industry for 30 years who could tell you how to take a building apart and put it back together without even blinking, but they didn't know what a browser was on their computer. So we invested in time, some lunch and learns and one-on-one type training sessions to just get people acquainted and confident with the basics of the devices that we were putting them out in the field with.
Such an interesting observation that you make. And I see that happen a lot where we make assumptions because we think everybody's like us. Like, I can't get through the day without a computer. So, how did they do it? Like, they must go home and use their computer. I can't get through the day without knowing how to use my smartphone. So, they must be the same. But you're saying, no, we need to take the step back and treat this as elementary as possible and make sure that everybody's learned along the way what they need to get to where we need them to be. We
That's right.
can't just make those assumptions. So, how do you? I'm curious because I hear a lot of people thinking right now, well, if they don't know how to install an app on their phone, then I don't need them. Like I shouldn't have to be dealing with that stuff, right? How do you reconcile that?
Well, when we talk about AI and what's important for the work that we do, who knows when that might happen that we may bump up against this. But right now, being able to have an expert that can go into a building and truly understand the building composition, maybe their history of being able to put these buildings together and pull them apart, all those sorts of ideas are not able to be done by AI. So we all have to just work with our strengths where they come and then be able to figure out how to come together as a team to do that. At the end of the day, it's much more useful to have someone who's an HVAC tech or someone who in our world is an expert in demolition or environmental to be able to have their lane that they're an expert in than to be really good at using the newest iPhone 17.
I could not agree with you more. Like, so often we want to turn them into this jack of all trades and they have to be really good at the technology and really good at the work that we do. And that's not what we're paying them for.
That's right. Yeah.
I always get a kick out of it when we see a lot of job ads in the work that we do. And I always get a kick out of it when they're like, I need a seasoned technician who knows Word and Excel and Outlook and how to research. I'm like, are you paying them to do that
Yeah. Right.
or not? And then they get frustrated because there's typos on their resume. They're like, oh, I can't have that person. I'm like, are you paying them to create resumes and type Word docs? Or are you paying them to demo and reinstall and fix stuff? And I see that happen so often that we just put people into this little box. Or we say, hey, the box has to be ginormous. Like it's always the extremes. We don't really see the in-between piece. So as you implemented this new technology, what was one of the big things that you saw rally the team to where they said, hey, you know what, Sebastian, this was the right thing for us to do. Yeah, I might have been resistant. But what was one example of that?
So our inventory tracking, both with our vehicles and our equipment, was a really big overhaul that we looked at. And what we found very quickly, I guess as a brief aside, I try to look at everything as who are the stakeholders and what we're doing. And it's really should only be the customer and the team. Whatever we're doing, we need to make sure that it's benefiting the customer or it's benefiting our team. And whenever we were looking at some of the technology and the pieces, like you were saying, oh, do I need to be able to do Microsoft Word or I need to do Excel and things? It's like, well, is that person going to benefit the team or the customer by knowing how to do that? And if the answer was no, then we need to rethink that piece. And so for our inventory management, to be able to see where all of our equipment was out on sites, to be able to see where our vehicles were and be able to do all this amazing tracking. Our managers were able to know where the techs were. We were able to know where our machines were sitting. There were times where people would drive, 20 minutes out to go look for a piece of equipment that wasn't there. Oh, well, they actually already brought that back to the shop. Well, that just wasted somebody's time, wasted money. Being able to just be organized in that way, you started being able to see the efficiencies save people time. And we also started doing these new bonusing system where when we found opportunities that saved the company money, we would put that right back into the pockets of the technicians. And so we really started seeing some positive feedback there also with the efficiencies.
I've heard of that a little bit more, especially in the restoration space. Remodeling space uses it and everything else because you know what you're bidding your project at. And if they can do it more effectively, they can do it with less waste, they can do it in a shorter period of time. A lot of organizations are anything, how do we make sure that everybody wins in that? So is that what you guys
Yep.
implemented?
That's exactly right. Yes, we did that. And even sometimes on a lower level, we started it with, hey guys, I see you're loading, you're loading $100 worth of consumables into this van. Have you checked to see if there are already some open boxes and some other things that you could pull together so you don't have to open these new cases? No, not really. So you take them around and we start gathering some waste. And when all of a sudden you start adding it up, sure, we've got $100 worth of materials that were just laying around that they didn't need to open up new cases. We went back to the back. got some Amazon gift cards, 20 bucks, 20 bucks, 20 bucks. Like, hey, you just saved the company $100. When you save the company, we have more to be able to like help out, and that's a very small thing, but you could just see that they started getting it. Like when we start thinking smarter, it really benefits everybody.
I can just picture a lot of people saying, but yeah, that's their job, is to save the company money, is to manage their inventory. That's their job. That's what I pay them to do. Why do I need to reward them for that? What do you say to that?
We talk about that a lot about it's my job, it's our job. And we've tried to talk about that mentality with a concept of set the next guy up for success. And when we look at that, we talk about how it's all of our job together and we have to hold each other accountable. And when we do that, I think that it gets extra buy-in when you can see that again with those shareholders, if we're not giving it back to the customer, we're able to literally share that with the people that matters the most and delivering the service, which is our guys that are out there, delivering the service in the middle of the night. So it's really, I think, a team. I think it's a team mentality. And even though it is quote unquote their job, we try to break those barriers down a little bit in that we've got to work outside of that and kind of reward each other as a whole for that.
Reminds me back, I'm sure you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni and Five Dysfunctions of a Team. He talks about focus on organizational results. It's not just about the results that I have for me or my department or my team, but it's like really looking at it globally. If the thing I'm about to do is going to impact that department over there, so often companies are set up in silos and we just disregard it. But what I hear you saying when you describe that, what went through my mind is there's just this emphasis on organizational results when we all win together. And so how do we do more things that are, this is going to sound a little cliche, but like the greater good, right? Like how do we take care of everybody so that the company can then take care of its people?
And it shows its face in our world a lot because we're in the space of disaster response, emergency services. So when a customer calls us, we oftentimes don't have the luxury of, well, how's 2 weeks from now to walk that job and we can get organized and maybe we'll kick this off next quarter. Oftentimes we are trying to begin work in less than 90 minutes. And so
Mm.
we don't have the luxury of time to get ourselves organized after a customer calls. And if it's someone's job to make sure the generators are fueled up and someone else is getting ready to tow a generator to a job and that's not their job, well, that generator doesn't have gas in it, everybody has a problem. So there's a lot of that happens that we've had to make sure that we are thinking about this as a team and keeping each other accountable because we just oftentimes don't have the luxury of a lot of time when the customer.
Mm. That makes sense. I imagine that's where some of those processes came in that you were talking about earlier was this allows us to be prepared. It's not, oh, it's an emergency. It's 11th hour fire drill. Like, what do we need? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? The processes are done checklists, if you will, so that we know there's fuel in the generator before we absolutely need it.
That's right. We're also really into training and doing hands-on scenarios with the team.
Hmm.
One of the things I always think about is other than the old quote with Allen Iverson where he was joking about practice and not the games, all of our sports teams, they practice every day. You scrimmage, you do scenarios. A lot of people operate their businesses like we're only playing games. And
Mm.
we really don't dedicate enough time as a whole industry to be able to do scenarios and practice with the team and train and make sure that people know what are the things that could happen wrong on this job and how would we think through that problem instead of having to do it live on the client site. And so part of that is involved in that as well is how can we get comfortable and practice and scrimmage in our shop to make sure that we're ready for the game.
That's a great way to think about it. I'm not a big football guy, but I remember someone telling me, they play 16 games for a couple of hours and the amount of practice and training that they put into playing those 16 games, like it's an astronomical number when you think about the actual time that they're playing,
That's right.
how much time they put into taking care of their bodies, understanding the plays, understanding the game. And you're right, we don't do it. We tend to do it with our salespeople, right? We always do it with our salespeople. Like, oh, we need to get them some role playing. We need to help them with objection resolution. Like, we're good at thinking it there. But what about the tradesmen and women, the ones that are out in the field and they might be by themselves looking at a situation and going, I've never seen this before. I'm not quite sure what to do. But giving them those reps and the
success
training.
metric for me also with how many times we're getting questions back to the office about a job. Of course, we always want to help if there's a situation, but do we have confident people in the field that can make the right decisions?
Mm,
And you think about it again with the sports analogy, these professional athletes don't turn back to the coach and ask about every shot, and they don't ask about every pass. They are able to be confident enough to make decisions that they know is right for the team. And I think that especially when we were starting out and we had technicians who felt that they needed to call us about 10 different things on every job to get confirmation or to ask the question. And again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't ask questions, but you got to get your team confident to be able to make those decisions. Or as a business owner, it'll drive you crazy. I mean, it will burn you out so quickly if you're feeling you have to micromanage every job like that.
yeah. And I think about the impact that culture might have in something like that. Because for me, I look at company culture or, I always say purpose, values, and vision, like how we act, how we behave, what we expect of each other. That can really drive that decision-making process for someone because we have a set of standards that says this is who we are, this is how we act, this is how we think. What do you guys do over at Sasser for that? Like, have you guys implemented that type of thing? And if so, how have you seen that show up?
We do. We have implemented a lot of those key core value type things, but I guess a little bit of a pet peeve of mine that I have seen over time is that core values written on a wall that are not, put into place in action are just words on a wall.
Yeah.
And I think that it's too often times that people sit in a room and they think, well, what do we care about? We care about trust and service. And it's always the same words you see just kind of written on the wall.
Yeah.
And we have some of those. So I'm not saying that if those are your core values, that they're bad. We have those as well. But how do we take them from the wall and put them into the truck and into the clients' homes and onto the job sites? Like, how do we pull it from that place and put it where it needs to be? And we started off doing our core value awards, which I think were good, that were tied to those. So we were able to find very definitive pieces of those core values out at our job sites and reward people when we see that happen. And we also do our annual reviews now based on our core values. It runs through everything that we do. So how you are rated at the end of the year with your performance metrics ties directly to who we want to be as a company.
I love that. Taking those things that are so important. You're right. We see them get wrapped on vehicles. We see them get put on banners. They get put on pens and business cards and put on t-shirts. And it's like, okay, we have these words that somebody thought were important, but really weren't important. I love that you're tying that to metrics. I love that you're tying that to an award system. Like you're making it real. You're taking the intangible, making it tangible and having people demonstrate them. And I think that's where really, especially core values show up is when they can be demonstrated. That's why I think a lot of times people don't know how to turn their values into a verb. Like if it's not a verb, if I can't see it in action, do I really know if it's alive or not? Or is it just something a marketing team came up with or an outside consultant came up with and said, you got to have these. But I do think too that it allows people that when they are being rewarded for it or they are being held accountable to them, it gives them a set of rules to go back to and say, hey, as long as what the decision I'm about to make aligns with these things, then I must be doing the thing that Sebastian wants me to do. Right? Because I can't imagine that somebody would look at it and say, hey, I ran it against all of our values and they passed and they made the decision. You're like, you're fired. It's like, no, you lived our values. Like, that's what we want.
Exactly. And I
That
think,
is so
like
great.
you were
What's the
saying, sometimes it helps me even on my day to day to stop and think through that framework of, is this decision that we're making on this reflective of who we've agreed that we are going to be to each other and to the customer? And sometimes, again, it's one of those, sometimes you have to slow down to go fast sort of moments where sometimes it's better to sit down and think about, are we doing what's right based on our guiding principles?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the next step? What's the next thing that you're excited about with Sasser and where you guys are going?
Yeah, so there's so many things. I think that our whiteboard is almost out of space always with all of our ideas. I think that,
Spoken like a true former consultant.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. The whiteboard is the most important part of the office.
Yes.
So I think that one of the things, again, going back to our roots and our core value of what we're trying to do, is we have a goal. We have a goal to double the amount of well-trained team members in our company over the next 3 years. And so what does that mean? Well, of course, we could just go on a hiring spree and just hire a bunch of people, but that's not how it works.
I
We
don't know that they'd be well trained either.
right. So that has a trickle down effect, that we need to find great customers. We need to have great processes to be able to train our team. We need to be able to retain the people that we have and make sure that we are doing right by them. And in our world, there's private equity, a lot of folks who are getting purchased and rolled up and all those sort of things. And there's a lot of folks that their goal is to build a business to sell it. And what we've always said is that if we build a business that is a good business, we shouldn't need to have that feeling. Like, it should be able to work for our employees and for ownership and for our customers, that we shouldn't need to look outside for an exit. And so our goal right now is to stay focused on building our team. And if we have the right people on the bus, we're going to go to a lot of great places. So we're going to start our focus there.
That's fantastic. How do people learn more about how do they connect with you? How do they learn more about Sasser, what you guys are up to? Got notes here. There's so much that you've shared that I think there's so much wisdom in it. I wouldn't be surprised if you aren't sharing that with the rest of the world somewhere.
Absolutely. I'm very active on LinkedIn, so I'm always looking to meet new people in the trades and understand, how they're running their businesses and what can we learn. As far as Sasser is concerned, we are generally a business to business company, so our marketing efforts are usually directed towards how do we build good relationships and maintain them. We don't do a lot of just open blast marketing to the masses. So, yeah, being able to connect with people one on one is the way that we operate. Lots of handshakes and lots of relationships and introductions. So that's what we're all about. So yeah, connecting on LinkedIn is probably the easiest way.
Sebastian, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all you're doing, and especially the fact that you're building a healthy team with people that you're investing in. So there's a future in this industry. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ryan Englin here. Thank you so much for listening to Titans of the Trades. If you're a titan in the construction, manufacturing, or skilled trades industry and would like to be a guest on my show, please visit podcast.corematters.com. If you found value in this interview, would you share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot on your phone and share it with a friend or post it on social. And if you know someone that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Titans of the Trades. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, click the subscribe button. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and get me one step closer to solving the labor crisis facing the industry. Want to know more about how we're doing that? Go to our website or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening.